When will the Cubs start behaving like that team that, went out and got John Lester and Jason Hayward, you Darvish? Don't hold your breath. That's not who this team is anymore. This is not a team that goes for it.
And the real question is, why in the hell not? I have one answer for you.
You're a mean one, Mr.
Ricketts. Hey, welcome into the Set of Man. This is Kyle Stanley. Happy holidays, and I hope that you're having some fun times because this is not going to be very fun to talk about today as the Cubs are having really an F- offseason. I had been on a show recently, Wrigleyville Forever, with Cody Delmendo and Blake Cowell. If you haven't checked that out, go check them out. I said that I thought the Cubs were going to have a C- offseason. We'll get into why later, but it's really turning into worse. It's turning into a lot worse. When your number one signing so far is Phil Maton and the rest of the league is just making massive trades, massive signings, and the Cubs are just kind of like maybe rumored to be in those. Yeah, so far it's an F- offseason. There's a lot still to happen, but when guys like this, Shahad Sharma and Patrick Mooney, part of Foul Territory, Northside Territory is the name of their show, and also in The Athletic. They are two reporters that are very close to the Cubs, and for them to say these things that we're going to break down today, it just shows you that this team is nowhere close to where fans' expectations are. And that's going to be not only frustrating for this offseason, it's probably going to be frustrating for multiple off seasons in the future to come. I'm going to break down this. I'm going to show you basically about 2 minutes of this conversation that was on the full episode on Northside Territory. I will link the full episode down below where they did a 2025 year in review. But I'm going to give you just a real raw reaction. I'm going to break down 3 different parts of this conversation. And we're just going to, unfortunately, have a Cubs and Tom Ricketts bashing session. I don't really like doing those kinds of things. I am kind of in the middle. I know there's Cubs fans that are just like, spend like the Dodgers and the Mets. And then there's Cubs fans that are like, no, you should be able to win like the Brewers are winning and only have a $100 million payroll because of the development of the team. And I'm in the middle there. I'm like, hey, you should probably be able to develop better than the Brewers because of all the things you have at your disposal. And you should be able to spend somewhere in the neighborhood of like the Braves at least. The Dodgers and the Mets and the Yankees probably run in their own echelon, but to be able to be at least in the top 6 is where I'm kind of at. So without further ado, let's listen to what Patrick and Shahad have had to say, and then we'll react.
This is not a team that goes for it. Jed Hoyer kind of hates that phrase.
This is a team that waits for it.
They wait for the market to settle. They wait for players like we were talking about with Amai to fall through the cracks, possibly like who's left standing. But they're not an aggressive team anymore. This is not the Theo Epstein days, and I think we've known this, and we just keep seeing it. If we start to wonder, is this the moment when they start to behave a little differently? Oh, here was the Craig Counsell hire. Now they're going to be aggressive. Oh, here's the Kyle Tucker trade. Now they're going to be aggressive. Cubs fans have to be frustrated by, this is just a recurring theme with this group.
That Alex Bregman saga in spring training was revealing. Like, he was the piece. That is what they identified internally on the baseball side. It was not a, step on the gas type of move. It was more of a see if this works, if he'll take that. Fundamentally, this just seems to be the model of what they're doing. And I don't think they're going to change it radically before the next CBA.
When will the Cubs start behaving like that team that, went out and got John Lester and Jason Hayward, you Darvish? Don't hold your breath. That's not who this team is anymore. You want to see them be aggressive and act like a team that's looking, making it happen instead of waiting for it to happen. And it seems like it's more the latter. We'll see if there's a surprise to come. Is it Amai? Yeah. Is it Bregman? Is it something like that? Is it a big trade that we're not aware of that's about to happen?
Okay, let's go ahead and talk about this. First of all, Patrick Mooney, great guy. Met him multiple times, really awesome guy. Shahad Sharma, kudos to you, man. I'm just going to be honest. Like, there is this kind of like tone in the media And I think it comes from being close to the team. I've talked about this with my co-hosts Ty and Alex, who, if you have not been watching our show, are awesome co-hosts with me. And I used to work for the Padres when I was in college. And when you get close to something, you then have this biased opinion, right? And Patrick and Shahadav and Boog and JD and all these people, even my good friend Lance, they have relationships with players, with Craig Counsell, with management, with front office, and they have to keep those good relationships, right? I think back to the Jesse Rogers quote that has become very famous amongst Cubs fans, and that is Jesse Rogers in 2023, I want to say, or 2024. Why is Christopher Morel trying to hit the ball into Lake Michigan? And Craig Counsell saying, come on, Jesse, that's a bad take. And basically just shitting on Jesse in the middle of a press conference. Excuse my language, but that's exactly what happened. And Jesse, being a guy that has to have a good relationship with Craig Counsell, is not going to tell you this, but I know internally he's like, well, shoot, now I need to like go buy Craig a fruit basket or something to get better, right? Like, that's the mindset of these media guys. And so the fans need to hear some sympathy. They don't want to just hear, oh, this is what the Cubs do, this is how they operate. Yeah, there's that part of it, but there's also some sympathy that's needed. And I thought Sharma did a great job of giving that sympathy to Cubs fans when we haven't really seen that a lot from the media. And so just to lay that out there, I think that was necessary to share. So 3 things that I want to break down here. Number 1, he said, gone are the days, right, of the Theo days, of the John Lester, the Jason Hayward, the Yu Darvish deals. Number 2 is nothing will change until the CBA. And number 3 is I want to do a little bit of a breakdown of the depth chart at the end of this episode to show you that, like, hey, we don't need to have an A+ offseason, because this team is a lot closer to being a division winner, being an NLCS champion, at least competing in the NLCS, than we were last year going into the 2025 offseason. So number 1, let's talk about this. Gone are the days of Theo Epstein. Gone are the days of the John Lester, the Jason Hayward, and the Yu Darvish contracts. And again, the question is, why the hell not? This is a team that when they went all in, and you heard Patrick and Shahadav say, hey, Jed Hoyer hates that term all in. Well, yeah, I think I would hate that term too if I saw my predecessor, well, I was the predecessor in Jed Hoyer. If I saw my mentor in Theo Epstein basically being given the keys to the Ferrari, and then he leaves, and then I get the sloppy seconds because, oh, we lost a lot of money during COVID. Oh, we had to make cuts. Oh, there was, what was the term? Catastrophic losses, or whatever the term was. I can't even remember. He gets the sloppy seconds, and then he's kind of like, well, now I got to go and I got to try to match Cubs fans' expectations to spending and developing an A-class organization on a C-class budget. Let's just call it what it is. They were number 11 in payroll in 2025. Number 11. And this team is, according to Forbes, valued at $4.22 billion was the last report that I saw, which is, I believe, number 2 or 3 in all of Major League Baseball. But they spend money like they are, I don't know, they spend more money than anyone else in our division. But they spend money like they're, I can't even think of a team. The Giants, right? The Giants are also a team that should be spending more money. So it's frustrating. Boog was on the show recently and said, I think every team would like to spend more money. Of course, every team would like to spend more money, but no team in all of baseball makes the kind of money, has the kind of loyal fan base, has the experience, and has the price of tickets like the Cubs do, and yet continue to be in the middle of the pack versus when they were in their championship years in the top 5 of spenders. I just want to know, Mr. Ricketts, you won your World Series. Did you give up after that? You got your ring. You changed Wrigleyville. You changed the expectations of this fan base. And that in itself is a blessing. But at the same time, if you do that, if you bring people to this kingdom of, hey, this is where we are now going, this is where we expect a World Series, then back it up, man. Like, just give the fans exactly what you gave them back in 2015 to 2018. So when you hear things like from the reporters that are right next to the team that they were not going to go and be aggressive and get those deals, yeah, that is frustrating. It's extremely frustrating. It's frustrating to a point where you just kind of tune out for the offseason. And I'm going to be completely honest, last offseason, I was fired up. It was going to be a great offseason. It was a great offseason. Even though we wanted to do more, you got Kyle Tucker, you got Matthew Boyd, you got a few pieces that were able to lead you to an NLDS and should have won a division if it wasn't for the crazy outbursts of the Brewers once again. But this offseason, when you go into it and you see that there are going to be pieces that are going to be quote unquote too expensive for this team, you just start to, as myself, start to lower those expectations. And then you just start to wonder, what are they really going to be in the mix on? And I loved what Patrick said there about the Bregman situation being revealing, because it was. And I think that's where the big difference in my mindset is this offseason versus last offseason was, I really thought they were going all in. I thought they were going to get that Bregman type of deal at the end of the offseason. And when it didn't happen, you kind of were like, well, why didn't that happen? And then you hear that Bregman actually was ready to sign with the Cubs, but that Tom Ricketts wasn't ready to come up to what the Red Sox were offering. And I'm sorry, Alex Bregman is not a $40 million a year player. He's just not. But when supply and demand are at that part of the market, and that's the missing piece, when all you need is an engine for your Lamborghini, and that engine usually costs $20,000, but now it's $60,000. Well, guess what? You need it. So you just got to spend money. And they just weren't able to do that. So as Patrick said, it was kind of like here's what we're willing to spend. If it works, it works. Rather than, hey, we're going all in. This is the one piece that we need. I could argue there was a lot more than just one piece. There was one piece in the lineup that they needed. They still needed another ace. They still, at least another number two. They still needed a few more pieces in the bullpen. But at that point in the lineup, that was what they needed. And it's just not cutthroat. It's a 40 per year deal where you know that Alex Bregman is going to opt out after year one. What would that have looked like for the Cubs? Well, they would have definitely gone over the luxury tax, okay? I'm going to just say it. The luxury tax is just not that big of a deal when you are just a few dollars over. Yeah, there's some negative repercussions. Yeah, there's some, and I don't know all of them off the top of my head, but I've looked into it in the past, and I'm just like, okay, if the luxury tax is $240 and you spend $250, BFG, you can do that acronym yourself. Big deal. But that's where this team continues to be, is we're not going to go a penny over the luxury tax. Meanwhile, the Dodgers, the Mets, the Yankees, they don't give a crap. And we'll get into that in a second. But here's why the Cubs continue to say that, according to Patrick. It's the CBA. And I hate this excuse. I hate it because there's a new CBA every 5 years. It's not a surprise. And yes, this CBA is different because there's probably going to be a lockout in 2027. So for that reason, this is probably going to be a monumental CBA. And so I get it. But when you are in 2024, 2 years out from the CBA, saying we're not going to do long-term deals because of the CBA, you're literally taking 2 years of potential deals and saying, sorry, we just can't go all in, and we're okay with not winning a World Series because of the CBA. I think that's bogus. I think that's a cop-out. I think if the Cubs didn't win a World Series in 2016, that would not be the mindset. If they were now at, what is that, 118 years of a drought, of not winning a World Series, and winning the wild card series in 2025 and coming one game away from the NLCS in 2025 and not having won a World Series in 118 years, I think you see Tom Ricketts saying, I don't care about the CBA. I just need us to win the World Series now because that's the legacy I want to leave. And I've said it before, that was the finish line for Tom Ricketts. It wasn't the starting line. For Cubs fans, that was the starting line. We won a World Series. We broke the curse. Let's go. Let's go and create a franchise. But that's not what Tom Ricketts sees. He said, checkbox, got it. Finish line. Let's raise prices. Let's add a few more ads. Let's go ahead and make this still a great experience for fans. You do that. Great job, Tom. But the best experience is winning. That is the best experience. And that continues to just be kind of it's not the full back seat. If we got a 3-row SUV, it's kind of the middle seat. And that is disappointing. It's incredibly disappointing. And the CBA in itself, by the way, don't expect the Cubs to spend like the Dodgers or the Mets. And I don't even think that is responsible. I think that's incredibly irresponsible to think that the Cubs can spend like the Dodgers and the Mets. Number one, the Dodgers have the best TV deal in the generation of generations to come. They got very, very lucky before all this TV crap started happening. I don't know all the details, but I know it's billions of dollars. So for that reason, they have this just massive excess of money, and they say, yeah, let's go put a perfect product on the field. There was a report, I want to say Bleacher Nation, I apologize, I didn't look before I started recording. Like I said, this is very real and raw right now. 169 million, I don't know if it was this year or the last 2 years, that the Dodgers are paying in luxury taxes. Imagine that for a second. $169 million in taxes alone, plus all of their payroll. You put that in the Cubs organization, and I'm just going to tell you that's going to make this team broke. Even if they win a World Series, I don't know the return that the Dodgers are getting on that. I would doubt that winning a World Series alone is making them back that $169 million. Probably Shohei Ohtani is making them back that $169 million with all the ads and all the Japanese connections and all of the apparel and everything. That's more likely to make that. Again, I'm not going to pretend like I know everything about the business side, but to look at the Dodgers and say the Cubs should spend like the Dodgers, no, they shouldn't. To spend like the Mets. Okay, Steve Cohen is the Mets TV deal. This is his hobby. He doesn't care if he makes money with it because he is a multi-billionaire who has so much money that this is just his toy that he gets to go play with in the sandbox. You look at it and you say, all right, if the Cubs just spent money, we would win. No, it's not that simple. But for the Cubs to say we're not going to spend because of the CBA, we're not going to commit to long-term dollars because of the CBA, I think it's the worst cop-out. I don't buy into it. I don't think it's fair to the fans. And I don't think it's fair to the players either because the players want to win a World Series too. Let me know what your thoughts are so far in the comments. Hopefully you guys are cool with this just being like a just raw reaction to this because I just got all sorts of feelings. No, when you look at it from a fan's perspective, right, and you say, well, we haven't seen a big deal in a while, that's one thing. But when you hear from reporters that are close to the team, that are in the inner circle, the trust circle, and they're saying that, that's where it just kind of lights that fire under your butt, and it takes you to another level. And that's kind of where I'm at right now. All right, lastly, number 3, this team doesn't need as much as they did last year. And that's where I just want to kind of zone in on this depth chart. The Cubs last year needed a lot. The Cubs this year don't need as much. They still need a lot, especially in the bullpen and a starter, probably a bat. But when you look at this depth chart, we're just going to run through this really quickly here. Just putting things in perspective, this team luckily doesn't need a whole lot when it comes to all of their positions, all of their 26-man roster. First base, set Bush. Horner at second. Happ in left. Suzuki in right or DH. Pico Armstrong in center. Carson Kelly and Miguel Amaya are going to be 1A and 1B again. And then you've got basically Moises Ballesteros / Owen Casey that are going to probably get this swing time if they're not traded while Suzuki plays in right, or Owen Casey plays in right, and then the other one is going to DH. Dansby Swanson is your shortstop. Matt Shaw is your third baseman. The only thing that you really see there is if Kyle Tucker or a potential trade for a right fielder happen, then you've got a stronger right field position because Seiya Suzuki, as we've seen in the past, is not the same Gold Glover as he was in Japan in right field. And then Matt Shaw, while he was a great defensive third baseman, a top 3 in the Gold Glove finalists, the bat wasn't there this year. It had some flashes, but it just wasn't there. So you could see the Alex Bregman signing be something that they upgrade there. But outside of that, the lineup, as Jed Hoyer said, if we were to play a game tomorrow, it'd be pretty set. It's not exciting. No Kyle Tucker, not as exciting, but it is, in a sense, set. On your bench, again, there's going to be more that is added. Currently, it lists Miguel Amaya, Tyler Austin, Scott Kingery, and Owen Casey, but I would imagine there's probably going to be a swap out there of like a Kingery is going to probably end up being someone else. Your starting rotation looks pretty set. Matthew Boyd, Cade Horton, Shota Imanaga, Jameson Tyone, Colin Ray when the season starts, but then Justin Steele when he comes back in. And then you've got potentially, when they're at the top of their game, 4 aces really in your starting rotation in Steele, Boyd, Horton, and Imanaga if they're at the top of their game. A lot of question marks around Shota Imanaga. A lot of question marks around Matthew Boyd. Can he repeat? A lot of question marks around Cade Horton. Can he be just as good? And a lot of question marks around Justin Steele. That's why Cubs fans want more starting pitching. That's why you see the Dodgers go out and get starting pitching after starting pitching after starting pitching. And it ends up working out for them because, well, they won the World Series the last 2 years. And then in the bullpen, this is where it needs the most work, but they've already got some pieces. Palencia, probably if the season started today, is your closer. Mayton, Thielbar is back. Porter Hodge maybe is in there. Hobie Milner, great addition. It's got Ben Brown, Ethan Roberts, and Javier Assad listed, but with the way that Jed Hoyer works his bullpen, and especially with the addition of Tyler Zombro, you just aren't really worried. So when you look at this, really what you're saying is, well, hey, we need a couple bullpen pieces. We probably need another starting pitcher or two, especially a bona fide ace. And it sure would be nice if we didn't go into the season thinking this is going to be a middle of the road offense. If we could get back to a top 5 offense, that would be pretty sweet. So, I mean, what ends up being the options there? Well, you got Alex Bregman. You will hear in this conversation with Patrick Mooney and Shahid Sarma that the Cubs love Bregman. Like they think he projects well with this team. But $30 million per year. How much money does the Cubs have to spend? If you spend $30 million on one player, that's going to restrict you a lot if you're trying to stay under the the tax threshold. Again, I hate talking about it, but that's how Tom and company think. Then as a starting pitcher, am I Suarez, Ranger Suarez, Framber Valdez, 25 plus per year on each one of them. Closer, legitimate relievers. You got Pete Fairbanks out there, but apparently he can't feel his fingers when it's below 60 degrees. So is that really a good fit? If you haven't heard about that, that's a real thing. I didn't make that up. There's what I'm saying here is the more you look into this, yes, the Cubs could make one deal. Patrick talked about that. They could make one deal and suddenly everything changes. That's what happened last year with Kyle Tucker. This team, what's going to happen? And then suddenly, boom, December, Kyle Tucker signs. Holy cow, we're talking like this is a contender now. That could happen again. All I know is every single team is picking up these guys. You can agree with the contracts or not. The Mets picking up Devin Williams and giving him $17 a year. I think it was 3 years, $51 million. I think you're crazy. I think if the Cubs did that, I wouldn't even be excited about that. That's crazy. But that's the market we're in. And that's what the Mets and the Dodgers and the Yankees are creating. At some point, you're going to have to put on your big boy pants. You're going to have to take the wedgie out, and you're just going to have to go for it. And I just don't see them doing that this offseason. Sorry. Again, this is not a downer, like, hey, I'm trying to bring down everyone right now. It's just, this is the reality of Tom Ricketts, and it was reinforced with all this conversation that Patrick and Shahad have had. So all my worst fears came to fruition when I watched that episode of Northside Territory. One thing I do know is the trade market is very hot. I can stop blaming Tom right now, and I can start to point the attention to Jed Hoyer and Carter Hawkins and say, why is the trade market so hot right now, and this team has not made one single trade? If it's not a free agent, it's got to be a trade. And we still have about 6 or 7 weeks left in the offseason. But man, something's got to happen. Something's got to happen. It's got to happen ASAP. Don't expect anything to happen for the next 10 days because of the holidays, but definitely January 2nd, I believe, is the expiration for Imai and his posting date. There's another third baseman. I don't want to butcher his name in Japan. The Cubs have now been loosely linked to because of John Heyman. I believe his is January 4th. So, expect basically right around January 2nd to January 4th, things start to really pick up. That January timeline is going to be really busy for free agents, for trades, all the way leading up to spring training. And I hope Tom Ricketts and Jed Hoyer prove me wrong. Let me know what you think in the comments. Thanks for joining us here. Thank you again, Patrick and Shahad, for that episode and giving me some content to work with. But anyway, happy holidays, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and I'm going to go put my arm on ice. We'll see you later, Setup Nation.